It has been a tremendously exciting few days. Daniel Bryan has been cleared to wrestle again, WrestleMania is right around the corner, and Cultaholic was featured on Smackdown's opening video package. Thanks Vince, we love you too. Yes, after almost 3 years away from the squared circle, Daniel Bryan has been cleared to compete in a WWE ring. I shouldn't have to explain why this is amazing news, but I will for those who haven't been paying attention to any wrestling ever. Even before he joined WWE, Bryan was being mentioned by indie fans as one of the greatest wrestlers in the world. His success in promotions such as Ring of Honor and PWG led to Bryan signing a WWE contract in 2009, and in just a few short years he became one of the most popular superstars of all time. Sadly, the physical toll of pro wrestling caught up with Bryan, and he announced his retirement from the ring in February 2016, having wrestled his final match the previous April, or so we thought. In news that has delighted the wrestling world, the 4-time world champion will indeed lace up his boots again, so to celebrate we're going to look back at his biggest highs and lows since becoming a WWE superstar. Not including this Tuesday night, let's just say that's number 0. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic.com, and these are the 10 biggest moments of Daniel Bryan's WWE career so far. Join us! Number 10, the release. Bryan arrived in WWE with a fearsome indie reputation, so naturally they stuck him in the first season of NXT. Remember, this wasn't the NXT we know and love these days, which is basically a Pokemon deck of global internet darlings. This is when NXT was a reality show, essentially a kayfabe version of Tough Enough. Except some of it wasn't kayfabe, it was real, but not really. But sometimes it was. NXT was a confusing show. Bryan's initial run wasn't the best, and that's being generous. His first gimmick was the guy with a losing streak, which I imagine was probably quite difficult to work with. Thankfully, things seemed to pick up when NXT winner Wade Barrett gathered his fellow competitors into a stable and invaded Raw in June 2010. Bryan was front and center, helping to tear up the ringside area and strangling ring announcer Justin Roberts with his own tie. Just 4 days after the Nexus invasion, WWE announced that Bryan had been released from his contract. Apparently, his announcer strangling antics had annoyed the sponsors, and Daniel was released back onto the independent scene. Shockingly, his WWE career was over before it had even started. Number 9, the return. In kayfabe, WWE explained Bryan's release by having his fellow Nexus members kick him out of the group, which is like the cast of Space Jam deciding, actually, we don't need Michael Jordan to win this game, let's send him back to Earth. Daffy Duck has really been practicing his jump shot recently. Bryan exploded back onto the independent scene, packing an incredible amount of wrestling into a short space of time. He beat TJ Perkins in WXW, he beat Bobby Fish in Evolve, and he beat Roderick Strong in PWG. He went to Heartland Wrestling Association and beat a guy named Jon Moxley, who apparently went on to do quite well. Before long, however, WWE held up their hands and said they didn't mean it. They just wanted him back for good. Bryan wrestled his last independent match against Shelton Benjamin. These WWE names don't stop coming up, do they? And got ready for his big return. That moment came at SummerSlam, where he was revealed as the surprise final member of Team WWE. Or to give its more accurate name, Team We've Got John Cena, we're definitely going to win. Sure enough, the Faces defeated the Nexus after Cena survived certain death to eliminate the final 2 men. Bryan was eliminated after being jumped by The Miz, who we now know as his arch nemesis. But more importantly than that, he was back in WWE. Number 8, Royal Rumble 2014. Yes, one of Daniel Bryan's biggest WWE moments can be described as not appearing in a match, which may sound strange, but it's absolutely true. By this stage of his career, Bryan had truly become the most popular babyface on the entire roster. Fans were desperate for him to be booked in the main event of WrestleMania 30, but he'd have to find a way of doing so first. That meant winning the Royal Rumble match. Before doing so, however, he'd have to deal with that pesky Bray Wyatt, with whom Bryan was feuding at the time. He actually lost to Bray in an excellent 20-minute match to open the Rumble pay-per-view, but that did nothing to dampen the excitement of his fans. The 2014 Rumble match is remembered for a few reasons. It was CM Punk's last bout, and it was the sight of Roman Reigns destroying everybody and getting cheered for it. However, and this sounds a little bit weird, it's most famous for not featuring Daniel Bryan. When number 30 was revealed to be Rey Mysterio and fans realized WWE hadn't booked Bryan in the match, the atmosphere soured instantly. Poor Mysterio was booed for simply not being Daniel Bryan. Thankfully, WWE would realize the error of their ways by WrestleMania itself, but we'll get onto that later. Number 7, the Royal Rumble 2015. Another Royal Rumble, another incredibly negative crowd reaction caused by WWE's booking of Daniel Bryan. Still insanely popular, fans couldn't wait to see their hero win the Rumble and progress to WrestleMania. He had an advantage over the prior year's Rumble by actually being booked in this match, which is always useful for winning wrestling matches, unless your name's Edge. WWE made Bryan's inclusion in the match very clear, even having him defend his spot against Kane on the go-home show. Absolutely nothing could go wrong this time. Bryan entered the Rumble at number 10. Okay, everybody thought, it's quite an early number, but winning from here will make him look really strong. A few minutes later, he eliminated Tyson Kidd, and everything seemed to be going well. Then Bray Wyatt knocked him off the apron to the floor. I'd like to say there was a dramatic calm before the storm moment where the crowd sat in stunned silence. However, I don't think that actually happened. I'm pretty sure the Philadelphia crowd started spewing lava from the moment Bryan's feet touched the floor. Luckily, WWE had booked Big Lovely Roman to win the match instead, so everybody got to go home happy. Number 6, winning the Intercontinental Championship. Bryan's Intercontinental Championship win has been looked back upon in a rather bittersweet way over the past few years. This could well have been his last title reign in WWE, and it came in one of the most exciting WrestleMania opening matches of all time. To put it kindly, the Intercontinental title scene around this time was a messy little bitch. WWE needed a popular face to restore the title's value with a long reign, and they got half of it. Bryan had recently lost to Reigns in a number 1 contender match, losing the chance to wrestle Lesnar for the WWE Championship. Still, he wouldn't walk out of WrestleMania weekend empty-handed, and I'm not talking about hotel towels or those little bottles of shower gel. Bryan outlasted Ziggler, Harper, Barrett, R-Truth, Stardust, and Dean Ambrose to win a thrilling ladder match. It was particularly memorable for its closing stages, which saw Bryan and Ziggler trade headbutts atop a ladder. Happily, Daniel won the butt off, perhaps because WWE sometimes forget that he isn't literally a GOAT, and claimed the historical win for the first time in his career. Sadly, he would have to vacate the belt due to injury just a few weeks later and would never return to the ring. Until 2018. I still can't believe it's happening. Number 5, retirement. On February the 8th, 2016, after almost a year away from the ring, Bryan announced his retirement. On an episode of Raw from his home state of Washington, he gave a heartbreaking speech about his love of wrestling and his sadness at not being able to do it anymore. In hindsight, this speech makes Bryan's return all the more exciting. It's quite clear that few have as deep a passion for wrestling as he does, and even though he's been an entertaining and sometimes hilarious SmackDown general manager, there's only one place for Daniel Bryan. I know that wrestling retirement should usually be taken with several pinches of salt, but for a long time it did actually seem as though Bryan was going to have to hang up his boots. His retirement speech was particularly amazing. It clearly came straight from the heart. Number 4, cashing in his Money in the Bank contract. It seems strange in hindsight, but for much of his surge up the card, Bryan was a gloating, overconfident heel. His turn to the dark side was a slow one, but one of the key moments came at TLC 2011. This pay-per-view was also the site of Daniel's first world title in WWE, as he cashed in the Money in the Bank contract to win the World Heavyweight Championship. For a babyface, however, the manner of his cash-in was decidedly heelish. Bryan didn't just cash in unannounced, as most people do, he did so on an unconscious opponent, a man who had been his ally over the past few months, The Big Show. Bryan also began celebrating his very cheap victory and subsequent small wins in a very over-the-top and petty fashion, screaming yes over and over. This eventually morphed into the unironic yes chant that would unite the wrestling world behind Daniel. This cash-in also made Bryan the first former NXT superstar to win a world title, a unique accolade at the time, but one which almost seems like a requirement these days. Number 3, SummerSlam 2013. Of all the grief-provoking, teeth-gnashing Game of Thrones moments in modern wrestling, the events of SummerSlam 2013 must rank pretty high. Bryan earned himself a WWE Championship match against John Cena and shockingly defeated the megastar with a simple but devastating knee to the face. Special guest referee Triple H countered the pinfall, and Daniel Bryan was WWE Champion for the first time. Did you spot something wrong with that sentence? That's right, special guest referee Triple H. The game is no stranger to double-crossing superstars. From his own stablemate in Evolution to countless naive babyfaces over the years, Bryan was one such victim and took a shock pedigree while celebrating his newly won title. This allowed Money in the Bank holder Randy Orton to saunter, literally saunter, down to the ring and cover Bryan, snatching away his championship in the process. Ultimately, despite appearing to be a huge low for the beloved fan favorite, this actually served him well in the long run. Fans were devastated, but their renewed support pushed Bryan to his biggest triumph 8 months later. Number 2, 18 seconds. In 2012, Bryan was at the peak of his petulant heel powers. He'd escaped threats to his World Heavyweight Championship reign by the skin of his teeth before celebrating as though he'd won the Super Bowl. Despite this, the smarkiest sections of the WWE universe absolutely loved him. An undersized indie darling was ruling the roost in the land of giants, somehow defeating much larger, sweatier opponents in the process. Then came WrestleMania 28. This Mania saw Bryan pitted against Royal Rumble winner Sheamus, and to the surprise of many, their match was opening the main portion of the show. The reason for that would become instantly clear as Bryan lost the match in just 18 seconds. After stalling to share a heelish kiss with manager and on-screen girlfriend AJ Lee, the champion wandered straight into a match-ending bro kick, and the internet imploded. Incensed at WWE's intentional humiliation of Bryan, fans hijacked the Raw after WrestleMania, filling the broadcast with non-stop chants for their hero. Although unquestionably the low point of his WWE career, his loss to Sheamus worked out strangely well for Bryan. It proved to be the unlikeliest of launching pads, uniting fans in their support for him. He finally found retribution 2 years later. Number 1, WrestleMania 30. This was always going to be number 1, wasn't it? Nobody in WWE history has enjoyed a WrestleMania as heroic and emotionally rewarding as Daniel Bryan. He pulled double duty on the night, defeating Triple H to secure a place in the main event, before beating both Batista and Randy Orton to win the WWE World Championship. The night was slightly reminiscent of Bret Hart's triumph at WrestleMania 10, but while Bret lost his first match to Brother Owen and defeated Yokozuna for the title, Bryan single-handedly ran through 3 of the most dominant superstars of the 21st century. WrestleMania 30 changed the entire landscape of wrestling in a single night. And although his reign would end due to injury, the long-term consequences of Bryan's win were far more important. While stars as talented as AJ Styles and Kevin Owens may have eventually found their way to WWE, they certainly wouldn't be thriving as much as they are today. Daniel Bryan is a big reason for that, and we can't wait to see what he does next. So that's our list. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and you can follow me on Twitter here. If you enjoy what we do here at Cultaholic, you can pledge to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/Cultaholic. And most importantly, don't forget to hit subscribe and join us. Yes, yes, yes.